Good evening, sim racing fans across the globe, and welcome to LSRTV as we welcome you in to the RSR Full Throttle Cup Series chase for the Full Throttle Cup. And from Charlotte Motor Speedway, the Inside Sim Racing broadcast tower, going to be a very busy place tonight as we kick off tonight's action from NASCAR's homeland, the Charlotte Motor Speedway. I'm Jacob Seelman alongside Evan Pasoko, Brian Macklin, Justin Rosenau. We get set to kick off tonight's action. Getting ready to qualify here, gentlemen, as we start the contender round of 12 for the chase. And Evan, we eliminated 4 a week ago in Dover. We also saw the resurgence of the defending series champ Eric Brundys. So what are we going to see tonight?
Well, we go back to stage 1 for all these guys. Again, maybe not the major talking point, but one of the things that we did make note of in that opening round is that you win the season. Not only did you get yourself to this place, but you had a small advantage. That's not the case anymore. So everybody on an even playing field, you have to reset. They say momentum's a big thing. We saw guys that had momentum going in to Chicago, New Hampshire, and Dover that did not have the momentum going out of that round, ended up getting eliminated. So, you know, momentum's a thing in racing, but your momentum is that next race. That all begins tonight, and same song and dance. You got 3 races. You don't want to be in the bottom 4.
No, you don't. Corbin Hemstreet was the big name that was eliminated a week ago in Dover, Brian. We know partially because he missed a chase race, was suspended for the opener in Chicagoland. One of those moments that you just kind of go, okay, it's almost like Jimmy Johnson getting eliminated in round 1 in the Cup Series. We knew Corbin was going to be a threat for the championship. Now that he's out of it, how easy or difficult does that make this for the remaining 12 drivers who have 3 very different races to contend with, including a race at the end of this round at, oh boy, wait for it, Talladega?
Well, certainly having somebody that is as talented as he is out after the first round makes it a lot easier for a lot of these drivers that are still left in the chase. However, like you said, Talladega is a major wild card, and the only certainty that these drivers can look forward to is by winning tonight here at Charlotte or next week at Kansas, because Talladega is such a wild card race, and it's going to be such an eventful race that you really can't rely on points. You don't want to rely on points, at least. If I'm the driver in that situation, I don't want to go into Talladega thinking, oh my God, I got to score this many points. I want to go in there saying, okay, I won Charlotte or I won Kansas. I can go out here and have fun at Talladega. You don't want to go in there and have to worry about points. So if I'm these remaining 12 drivers, I'm going to do everything I can to win tonight here at Charlotte or win next week at Kansas. So Talladega is not even a concern. I want to do that, and I want to do it as soon as possible.
I know these guys don't want to worry about Talladega. They want to do what Joey Logano did, make a payoff and go to victory lane. And in order to do that, it's likely going to be a track position game tonight. You got to start up front just as he did a week ago. Dan Murray fast in qualifying. And for the 4th member of our broadcast crew tonight, let's get some words from the pit box, the number 5, and bring in Justin Rosenau. Justin.
Yeah, Dan Murray certainly looked to be very, very fast tonight. He said he really wanted to go out and start this round of the chase, the contender round, with a win. And I have to say, Dan Murray looking to be that fast, as he's the guy on the provisional pole right now, just 4 minutes into the qualifying session here at the Charlotte Motor Speedway. Murray driving that beautiful painted Abreu Vineyards number 5. He's going to get that machine up and on the track once again to take another hot lap on the track. And Murray from the Steel Horse Racing Crew, one of the very best that they have to offer here in the contender round. Another name to watch out for is Thomas George from the Steel Horse stable. 13th in practice, up to 6th in qualifying. Can he find enough speed in the session as we start to make our way towards the middle stages?
And we're going to take a look now at the chase standings. 12 drivers remain, 4 were eliminated. And Evan, as we take a look at this, we see the points have been reset. Everyone now at 3,000, and that is going to be key because it is 100% a new ball game. Anybody that was at the bottom of the heat can quickly make their way to the top of the heat. The 2 guys, Mitch Rollo and Dwayne Vincent, who won races, actually Eric Brundys too, the 3 guys who won races in segment 1. They don't have an advantage now. 12 guys one chance, 3 rounds. Who are you liking in these top 12 that includes one former champion and a whole lot of people behind him?
I think it's very difficult to look past the 80 dot of Jeff Ward. You look at those guys and you saw the standings. So Christopher Hurlow right now in the 87, he's at the bottom of those 12 drivers because he finished 12th in that first round. Eric Brundys is at the top because he finished with the most points out of him, Vincent and Rollo, who had wins. But again, there's no points separating those guys. Jeff Ward, a big name there, 39 points above the cut line. That means that he was about a race better than those guys on points. For the guys that got disqualified and did not move on without going to victory lane, I say Jeff Ward should be very strong. Guys like Dan Murray, Thomas J. George, 33 points ahead, 35 points ahead. A guy like Comstock, who was 26 points ahead. Those guys are good, Jacob. That's cool, though, for the round of 16. But if you have guys like Brundys, Vincent, and Rollo winning, eventually running that much better than your competition isn't going to be enough. This round, I think you're still going to be able to get away with getting solid top 5s, top 10s. By the time we get down to 8, you better be going to victory lane.
Yeah, because you could potentially have a situation where 3 of these chase guys win, and you only get one guy, Brian, in on points. The last guy in on points is one of the guys that is batting hurt tonight. Christopher Hurlow under the weather for the kickoff of round number 2 here at Charlotte. But boy, he's got speed. He's 6th quick, and he's one of the guys that I feel like is really underrated in the battle for this championship. He didn't make a lot of noise. He was just extremely consistent in round number 1, and I think that could be scary for the rest of the field, because you talk about a guy that may not necessarily win one of these 3 races, but maybe one of those guys that can pretty easily point his way in. I'm looking at the 87.
Yeah, and you know what? Sometimes going into the race and not feeling 100% or dealing with some type of an injury or a sickness can be an advantage for the driver. We've seen it in real life a lot. We saw it with Denny Hamlin a couple years ago when he had the torn ACL. He went out there and won at Martinsville, then he got back from surgery and he won a few more races. We've seen it in real life, and it could certainly play out that way here tonight. Christopher Hurlow is an amazing driver, like you said. He hasn't been out there and won a lot of races. He hasn't been on fire or on top of the world, but he's been consistent. He's been fast week in and week out, and this might be the motivation he needs to go out there and get a win here tonight and lock himself into the next round of the chase. And he's certainly got a lot of speed right now. He's 6th on the board in qualifying, and there's still a few minutes left. He could move up a little bit if he gets back out there.
Yeah, only 8/100ths of a second. The difference between 6th and 1st right now. And Justin Rosenau, I know we've got a few more words from you down pit side. Another guy who's shown speed, a guy that's been helping those RCO Boomtown Sim cars in the form of the 77 of Adam Benefiel. We know he's fast everywhere he goes, and he told me earlier today, I'm going out to win this race. I don't care what it takes. We've got speed, and we're going to the front tonight. Currently P2 on the board.
In the opening segment of this season of the RSR Full Throttle Cup Series, Adam Benefiel, Adam Apple as he's more affectionately known amongst the drivers here in the series, was very, very fast with the One-Up Motorsports crew before that operation kind of fell by the wayside after the first segment. Benefiel, taking some time off from the series, rejoins up with the Boomtown guys to try to offer them some help as well. 14th in practice, just off the line, showing 2nd in the qualifying session with just 6 minutes left to go here in the qualifying session. Adam Benefiel, very, very fast in that RCO Boomtown Camry entry. Very, very fast. One other driver we want to look out for is, we mentioned the 89 of Jeff Ward, the 1 of Thomas George, the 77 of Benefiel. How about the winner, or excuse me, the guy who finished 3rd at the earlier race this year at Charlotte? How about the 14 of David Comstock? He's been the clubhouse leader all along up until the start of the chase. David Comstock, very fast in that Monster Energy Chevrolet. He can do it. He's just got to get himself a little bit better run here in qualifying. 20th in practice, 11th in the qualifying session, but we've seen he is the guy that can go to the front on the long runs.
Yeah, we have. And Evan, I'll just ask you the hard question right now. Is David Comstock the championship favorite or no?
When we look back on 2014, we had a very similar discussion when we saw him in this series running strong. We know that he can perform on these chase tracks. Problem is the sim has changed quite a bit. Now, he's shown that he's well adapted to it. Again, he mentioned that he's one of those guys that finished 26 points ahead of the cut line, so he's been strong, but they have not had that ridiculous amount of speed. Like I said, though, this is a new round of 3. I think tonight, really big for the 14 machine to show if they're here to play. I still think they're without a doubt a top 8 car, and I don't doubt we're not going to see them in the next round, but that's a 20th place car in practice, and he's struggling to hit the top 10 in qualifying. Now, again, we know that he is very, very good on the race run. Right now in 11th position, so that's still far from over. But right now I'm looking at a little bit more speed out of that car in the likes of what we see with Wayne Vincent all year long.
And you talk about speed, and those who have speed and maybe don't have speed, everybody's got speed tonight, Brian. The top 27 cars separated by 0.3 of a second. I look at the standings right now, and normally we say there's 8 or 10, 12 guys that have a shot to win. Tonight, wow. There's a host of guys that could go to victory lane in this race.
Yeah, and that just shows how competitive that this field is becoming. You've got, like you said, 27 drivers separated within 0.3 of the pole. I mean, this is just an example of how fast all of these drivers are, and it's a shame that we couldn't have a 30-car chase, because all of them are certainly fast enough to do just that and be involved in the chase. But I'm really impressed with Dan Murray. He jumped up there after being 8th on the practice chart. And now he's on the pole right now with a little bit over 3 minutes left. He's on the pole by a couple hundredths over Adam Benefiel, and he's got a good lap there. That's going to be tough to beat. For the rest of these guys, they're really going to have to step it up. A 27.063, that's really impressive here. I've seen a lot of fast laps, but that's one of the fastest laps I've seen. I think the only other lap I've seen faster than that was what Anthony DeBarro put down in practice. He ran a 26.99, which was also extremely impressive, but he has not been able to back that up so far. He's only ran a 27.088 so far.
Yeah, which I'm a little surprised at. He's the only driver to dip below 27 seconds in anything, and actually his teammate Mitch Rollo ran a 27 flat, 7,000. So these Boomtown Sim cars, we've said the last couple of weeks, they've set the standard for the most part, at least on sheer speed, Evan, and it seems like they're continuing to do that. You start to know now if they're not going to win the race, but gosh, they're going to be in the top everywhere you go.
Yeah, we talk about this round again. You mentioned some of the tracks. We're at Charlotte here this week. We go to Kansas, another one of the 1.5 racetracks. Then we head to Talladega. So you kind of want to link these intermediate tracks that we're going to see two 1.5s back-to-back. But again, they are so very different. But they all have a similar characteristic, and that is if you're good at one, you're pretty much good at another one. And we've seen that these guys, they've gotten their well-tested share, and many of these tracks they've already seen several times this season. So as they work through this very long 15-minute qualifier session, now less than 2 minutes to go, what they have on the board, you can pretty much guarantee at this point the best they got in the tank.
And as we get close to the red and black flags here, closing in on a minute to go on the qualifying clocks, we'll update the starting grid for you in just a couple of moments here. But right now, to honor America and get set to kick off to battle under the lights, we go trackside as we start tonight's big ceremonies.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet
bring you back topside here as we conclude opening ceremonies and get ready to head to the grid for LSR TV and tonight's running of the fourth race of the Chase here at Charlotte Motor Speedway. Again, for those of you just tuning in, I'm Jacob Seelman on top of the broadcast tower and ready to bring you all the action alongside Evan Pasoko and Brian Mack. Justin Rosenau patrolling the pit lane tonight here at the mile-and-a-half Beast of the Southeast. We conclude qualifying and we go trackside for tonight's starting lineup here on LSR TV. And on the pole for the second consecutive race here in the RSR Full Throttle Cup Series, Dan Murray in the Abreu Vineyards number 5 gets it done. Alongside him in the number 77, Adam Benefiel, making his return to the series a successful one, qualifies P2 here tonight.
You take a look back at row number 2, the number 3 spot to the fastest man in practice. Anthony DeBarro will roll at the Speed 77 Radio Chevrolet off on the inside of row 2. Outside to his teammate, you got the 96, that's Mitch Rollo.
Starting in row number 3, driving the number 1 Snap-on Chevrolet, that's Thomas J. George. And to his outside, another one of those RCO Boomtown cars. Again, they're all really fast tonight. That's Christopher Hurlow starting P6.
Row number 4 to the inside, the 11, Jonathan Cadell, and to his outside, a teammate from the Steel Horse Racing stable, the Unical 76 entry, Jeff Ward in the 89.
E.J. O'Rourke with a great pickup from practice. He'll jump inside the top 5, or rather the top 10 to start on the inside of row number 5 at 9th spot. Outside to him, the number 94. Moving on this week, it's the White Castle Ford Fusion of Eric Brundies.
Starting in the 11th position, driving that Monster Energy Chevrolet, that is David Comstock in the number 11th position. To his outside, Dwayne Vincent looking to do what he did a few weeks back. He's starting P12.
Row 7, Greg Evans to the inside, and another Steel Horse machine. That's a Chase driver. To his outside, the 2, Rhett McBride.
One more row back, you got Steve Gottschalk rolling off from 15th position. Outside at him in 16th. How about the 66? Great start for Brian Harvey.
Starting 17th is Jake Higgins, and to his outside, Jose Gonzalez, the Meatball Machine, is starting 18th.
Rounding out the top 20 tonight, Ben Burnett in the 37, Scott Stenzel in the 42, the Exalted Jeff Gordon Tribute Scheme starting on the outside of row number 10. As we roll, Evan, let's dial up the guy who, one of the guys who won in the last round, trying to make it another here in the chase. Let's grab Mitch Rollo.
Mitch Rollo, it's Evan Pasoko, Jacob Seelman, and Brian Macklin in the booth. You got a copy?
Yeah, I got you.
Well, we're going through our lineup here, and there's a lot of your teammates up there inside the top 5 there with you. You roll from 4th tonight, and you guys kick off a round in which you punched your ticket through to tonight with a win. You guys planning on doing the same here tonight?
Yeah, so we got a really good Chevy tonight. Me and Anthony are really good at Charlotte, so we'll see what happens here. Hopefully one of us can bring it home to victory lane, and the goal's to finish 1, 2, 3 here tonight.
You guys are up front. What's the biggest challenge on the evening?
We just got to keep the track position. It's pretty hard once you get back in traffic to get back to the front after you get all the way back there. So if we keep the track position, we'll be all right.
125 laps. We'll let you get back to the team radio. Best of luck here.
Thank you.
As we get set to go green, Evan, ready to roll tonight, and it's going to be a wild one. We're glad you're with us here on LSR TV. Dan Murray, the 5 car, going to lead us to the green flag. As we head away, the is gone. We're ready to race here in the Queen City. Green flag flies, and the 4th race of the chase for the Full Throttle Cup is away. Murray away on the bottom, and Anthony DeBarro coming right with him in that Speed 77 Radio Chevrolet. He takes P2, slides up. Adam Benefiel slots in behind. They go topside, Murray to the bottom, down the backstretch for the first time tonight.
The top 3 play nice out of 2. Now the top 5 as they head down to turn number 3. Mitch Rollo on the inside of the racetrack and lose the spot. The 1 car makes the move. Thomas J. George slots up to 4th. Rollo has to sit in 5th as the top 9 get single filed out just behind them for 10th. Dwayne Vincent, one of the guys we mentioned a lot tonight, inside on the 62 and way wide to turn 1 goes E.J. O'Rourke.
Yeah, EJ's one that's always got some. Brian, you and EJ, former teammates before you joined us here in the broadcast booth, and we'll get back to that thought in a minute, but green flag flying for the first time tonight.
And it looks like trouble. Jose Gonzalez hard into the inside wall, down the back straightaway on lap number 2. And that's not the first piece of contact he got yet Right side damage, left side damage already on the Meatmobile going into the corner, and that car got tight, caught the fence, he split it out, hit the fence, so it looks like he got some contact on the opening lap that could have attributed. Looks like he's on the virtual hook back to pit road.
Justin Rosenau, what's the crew saying? You're down there.
Not so much the crew as more as it what the driver is saying. Very, very animated on the radio right now. Replay going up on your screen as you see it. You're going to see that the 26 Meatball Company Got Balls machine gets tight out of turn number 2, slams the outside wall in the reverb off the outside wall, sends him hard down on the inside wall. Motor blown on that Meatball machine. It's going to be a lengthy repair to see if they can get it running again, but as it stands, it looks like we have our first casualty of the race.
So under caution quickly at lap number 2. Brian Macklin, I want to go back to a thought that I just started to hit on with you before the caution flag came out. We were talking about E.J. O'Rourke, and I mentioned you used to be teammates with him before you joined us here in the broadcast booth. You've seen him race before. He's always got speed. He's never really been a regular in this Full Throttle Cup Series, but he knows how to get it done, be consistent, run inside the top 5 to 10. Still looking for that first win, but always a threat no matter where you go, and unusually good here at Charlotte. He's confident tonight.
Yeah, I've been friends with EJ for a very long time. As a matter of fact, he actually just stayed with me about a week ago. We went to the race together, and it was a really fun weekend. And yeah, as far as on the racetrack, EJ is one of the cleanest drivers you'll ever see. He doesn't put himself in bad positions. He doesn't race too hard when it's too soon in the race. He's going to take his time. He'll make the moves when he knows it's time to go. He's not going to go out there and put himself in a bad position on lap 4. He's going to wait until it gets later in the race before he starts being aggressive. And certainly in the official series, he's one of the best drivers as far as just getting through the race cleanly and getting to the end of the race. And usually when he does that, he's one of the top 10 or top 5 drivers. And I certainly expect that here tonight. If he doesn't get caught up in anything, if he just minds his P's and Q's like he's so good at doing, I certainly expect he's going to be in the top 5 or maybe even be a threat to win this race. He's one of the best drivers in this service and certainly one of the best drivers here tonight. And I look forward to seeing what he can do if this thing stays green for a while.
We got to get back green first, though. This early caution flag slowing the pace and it doesn't really shuffle up the order because for the most part the top 7 running about exactly where they started, save for the guy who started on the outside pole, Adam Benefiel, and all of a sudden he's dropped well down our scoring list. Justin Rosenau, any word on the 77? Early problem, perhaps?
No, just looking to get off sequence of everybody else, trying to take advantage possibly of some late race shenanigans on pit road, and if he can stay within a couple laps on tires of the leaders, he can stay out and possibly try to steal a win. We've seen that happen time and again in the Full Throttle Cup Series. Somebody makes a tire strategy call late in the race, and this may be Adam Benefiel's crew chief making the call to try to get off sequence of everybody else and really try to play mind games with the field.
Mind games. That's a familiar thought in this chase, Evan. Where have we heard that before?
Well, you know that the drivers are talking about it, and they play mind games with each other on the track. We always talk about how if you get a couple of guys going at it, somebody will peek a nose out to the inside, try to make that guy in front of you think you're there, but this championship is Let's Go for the Pace Car throughout the season and then as well through these first 3 races. The mind games have turned into a little bit of gamesmanship on and off the racetrack. It's been quite exciting, and we've seen a couple of rivalries that we haven't seen in quite some time starting to spark back up. That's almost exactly what you want to see when you come into a race like this and you come into a championship like this where there's a lot of guys that have been racing together and they're all familiar with each other, Brian. So they kind of not only want bragging rights over each other, but to a point, it's personal. You don't want to get beat by the guy that you've been racing with for 2-3 years.
Yeah, you certainly don't want to get beat by the guy you've been racing with for that long. You want to go out there and you want to show him that you can beat him, and that's exactly what we're going to see here tonight. And as we're about to go back green, Dan Murray is looking forward to getting out there and going again. I'm really interested to see if this thing stays green, who's going to come to the front and who's going to fall to the back. These tires fall off a ton after 10 laps.
With the pace car, going to get back down to the way. Dan Murray on the inside of the front row yet again. Going to be the control car for the restart. Green flag drops and back and away we go. He'll take off down low, and both of the RCO Boomtown sim machines kind of left in the wings waiting. DeBarro going to be able to jump down. He'll get second at 96. Arolo from third on the restart. He'll slot into third down low. Thomas J. George will settle for fourth, as many of them single file out down the back straightaway. First fight involves Brundy's back in 8th.
Yeah, Eric Brundy's is battling hard on the inside of David Comstock as they work off into turn number 3. Now he's trying to get clear of him as they go through 3 and 4. Not able to do it at the moment. He's going to have to stay underneath him as they go down the front straightaway. He's trying to follow Jonathan Jones to go off into turn 1. Now we have a battle for second right now as Anthony DeBarro is getting a challenge from his teammate, Mitch Rollo, as they work on turn 2. Now Mitch Rollo is going to try to set his sights on Dan Murray as they head down into 3.
Yeah, how about the driver who probably coulda, woulda, shoulda won this race last year, Evan? You and I were on the call for this race 1 year ago. Mitch Trollo had the lead coming to the white flag, thought it was the checker, led up at the line, and Eric Brundy's goes on to victory lane. I believe the driver of that 96 Chevrolet is driving like a man who wants a little bit of redemption this time around, don't you?
Yeah, the key to being strong is always drive with the chip on your shoulder. We've seen a lot of guys bring that kind of approach. It's been very successful. It doesn't hurt when you've had a fast race car. You combine that with a successful season. Things are rolling. You got a ticket into this round with a win in the last round of this chase, and you're good at the racetrack. He's got this under control right now. He's running in third spot, not all over the top 2 like you see DeBarro on the back of Dan Murray at the top 2 as they go through 1 and 2. Sits a couple of car lengths off. He's running his own line as we're going to have a challenge for the top spot down to 3.
Yeah, how about this move for the lead in turn 3? Anthony DeBarro sails it right down to the white line. He's going to try to make the slide job work. He'll do it off turn 4. Murray has to give way. Lead change, lap number 10. Anthony DeBarro to the top. The caution flag flies. Trouble back in the pack.
He makes that pass for the race lead just in time. Caution flag will fly. We will slow things down as the lights come on top of the pace car just as those guys were going through the quarter. At number 31 of Eric Arnold, hearing that driver may be the cause of this one, and it was a big problem, it looks like, down in turn number 4. And this one, unlike that first incident, did not appear to be a solo accident. It looked like he may have had a run-in with the driver that he was fighting with for 33rd spot, Douglas Wyatt.
Yeah, and as you see on the replay right there, there was a little bit of contact between the 22 and the 31 of Eric Arnold, and it just sent the 31 around. And now, as we work our second caution on lap number 12, the race cars are getting ready to catch up to the iRacing Ford First Mustang. It's going to be interesting to see if we see these guys come to pit road here. I know it's only been a couple of short runs, but having 2 heat cycles on these tires with this dynamic surface model and with the massive tire wear fall-off that we see on these cars now, especially here in the Sprint Cup Series cars, it's going to be very interesting to see. I think we're going to see a split strategy. I don't think you'll see a lot of the leaders come in, but I certainly think you'll see some of the guys mid-pack or maybe even somewhere towards the back of the top 10 come to pit road to get fresh tires. We're about to find out here.
Debating, leaders in, leaders taking, everybody's coming. Justin Rosenau, down to you.
Leaders on the pit road, all of your leaders up there in the top 20 or so on pit road. We'll cover the 9 of Anthony DeBarro as he rolls down pit road. 50 mile an hour the speed limit here in iRacing for tonight. DeBarro hits his pit stall cleanly. Right side's going up on that machine kind of slowly as well, I might mention there on DeBarro's car. Right side's down. Second can of Sunoco Race Fuel down and away. 2 tire takers right now coming off of pit road. It looks like 3 drivers at least taking 2 tires. Anthony DeBarro going to win the race off of pit road. Of those who have 4 tires, we'll get the rundown for you here in just a moment.
How about Eric Brundy's and David Comstock, 2 of the big players you always got to watch out for. They're on 2 tires. We'll reset the running order when we come back from Charlotte Motor Speedway. This is LSRTV, the voice of sim racing.
Did you know the lion's sense of vision is so powerful, it actually enables nearby creatures to see better? Here we see lions assisting the offspring of others, while their parents are elsewhere in the wild. Brilliant, isn't it? Making the Wild Kingdom look much better indeed. Do good. Be a lion.
And we bring you back in here on LSRTV to the Charlotte Motor Speedway, high atop the mile-and-a-half beast to the southeast. We'll welcome you into the Inside Sim Racing broadcast tower, where you'll find myself, Jacob Seelman, Evan Pasoko, and Brian Macklin calling the action for the fourth round of the RSR Full Throttle Cup Series chase for the championship. Justin Rosenau down on pit road, and Evan, as we get set to go back to green, a lot of split strategies. The 52 of Sean Casto leading the way. The Speed Energy Chevrolet stayed out. David Comstock, Eric Brundys, they took 2 tires. Everybody behind them on 4 fresh ones. How do you see this one working out?
Well, I'll tell you what, we've seen this situation a couple of times, not just with one driver that stayed out, a couple of drivers with 2, everybody else with 4, but almost with the exact same driver. Sean Casto known to go out there, he's got the bonus point, leads this race right now. I think it's a question of how long can he hang on. I don't think no tire is going to be able to do much, as we talked under the commercial break. 2 tires, it might be possible. The question is for David Comstock, can you get something going up top, or are you stuck behind him?
We're about to find out, because the pace car is going to want to get away in a hurry. It is gone. Sean Casto gets away with the lead. Big jump as David Comstock kind of holds the rest of the hounds at bay. Throwing a block to the outside, drops to the inside. Eric Brundys back there in third. Anthony DeBarro, the first man on 4 fresh Goodyear Eagles, trying to make some ground on the high lane. He rides fourth, but Comstock in that Monster Energy pink Chevrolet wants a piece of the lead. He's going to the bottom for the top spot as they cross the stripe.
And that wasn't a shy move. I'm saying right to the back bumper, drops to the inside as that apron opens up at a turn number 4. He'll go to the race lead. And again, the big thing was he was in front of DeBarro, so he's the first guy that got a shot at Comstock. Now trouble though, Eric Brundys way high at a 2. There's damage as he catches the fence, and they're 3 wide trying to get around him. They'll do so in 3, but Brundys is hurt.
Yeah, he is hurt. He was way high in turn 1, got a good piece of the wall. Justin Rosenau, I heard him screaming on the radio a minute ago. Problems big time on that Ford.
Defending champion and defending race winner of the Full Throttle Cup Series, Eric Brundys won last race up at Dover. Replay up on your screen screamed that the car was very, very loose, and by the time he got it gathered back up, he found himself into the backstretch wall on the outside in the 94 machine. Very, very hurt. He's going to have to come down to the attention of his pit crew. Not the start that he wanted here for this round of the chase.
Not at all. Battle for the lead in turns 1 and 2. Anthony DeBarro coming calling on the bottom of the racetrack. It's a battle of the bow ties. Chevrolet on the bottom, Chevrolet on the top. DeBarro takes the lead, almost 3 wide, headed for turn number 3. Comstock with the huge crossover. DeBarro trying to hold him off, and Comstock, Evan, about came across the nose of the 96 of Mitch Rollo, took him with him.
Yeah, that's a move you make on a super speedway when you don't want to get left out to dry. There wasn't much of a hole. He forced it through the 9 car, took the race lead, and then the 14 unable to bring it back down low. The 96 turns to the top side, and again, the RCO Boomtown Chevrolet up top. He'll drive right by at a quarter number 2 slot into second. Not the first time tonight that we've seen somebody go into turn 1, miss their entry, go way up to the fence. It's costing David Comstock as he falls to third.
It really is, but Brian, I think what else is costing him is that 2-tire pit call. You gotta think the little bit extra tire wear is going to play a bigger factor. The more the more heat cycles you put on these tires, we talk about the new grip model. It's really affecting the way these cars drive and really affects the ability to make that 2-tire call.
Yeah, I certainly think that was an interesting call. It was a call that happened early enough in the race where, since it's not going to work out the way he thought it was, he can certainly make up for it. If he had made that call late in the race, it could have really hurt his chances, especially in this chase format where you only have 3 opportunities to go out there and win races or get good finishes before the next round. Fortunately for him, I don't think he's going to lose too much time. He's falling back to what looks to be the 4th position right now as he lets Thomas George go here in turns 3 and 4. If they get another caution, though, this is going to work out in his favor because everybody's going to come back down the pit road. He's going to get 4 fresh tires, and he's going to have gained track position. When the caution came out most recently, he was back around the 9th position, and now he's up to 4th. So if they get a caution now, it's still going to work in his favor.
Let's get a look at the replay. Go side by side here. We had trouble a couple laps ago. The 22 and 37 having a little bit of a coming together, a warring of words. Ben Burnett involved in this with the 22 of Douglas Wyatt. They are now both 2 laps down. This incident happening on lap number 21. And Evan, we talk about arguing for space. This was an argument for space well back in the pack.
In the 37 up on the top side, Ben Burnett pulling away a little bit as they came pretty much right off of that restart back on 19. Douglas Wyatt maybe 10-15 car lengths back as they went into the corner as you saw the replay, and we heard everybody talking about how it's loose. Well, the 37, he had damage from contact earlier, got sideways. 22 tried to take an advantage of it. Douglas Wyatt, by the time he realized that track was blocked, nowhere to go, they got into each other. That's why both those cars on the pit lane.
Fastest car on the racetrack, last time by the one of Thomas George, the Snap-on Chevrolet, really making some ground. He is making up a ton of time on these front 2 RCO Boomtown Sim cards. Justin Rosenau, you got a report on the 1 car.
Thomas George won the last race here in the spring. He won the effective version of the World 600 here for the Full Throttle Cup Series. Very, very fast here at this racetrack. He's kind of taken a liking to this racetrack through the years of him being on the Full Throttle Cup Series, and he is really closing in, running low 27.8s or high 27.7s versus the leaders 27.9s. So the Boomtown cars starting to fade. They got short run speed. We'll have to see if they can keep the long run speed up. But as it stands, Thomas George closes the gap slightly, just under 0.6 of a second back off your race leader, Anthony DeBarro.
Normally, Evan, I talk about Thomas George liking racetracks where you can run the high lane because he likes to hang it out there. But he's been, as Joey Logano described it on Sunday, glued to the bottom like a catfish here early in the going. I'm not sure what he's found, but it's working for him right now.
And we saw those guys up front right now, DeBarro, Rollo, they made their move for the race lead up on the top side. You see the one that was taking a very wide arc into the corner. He's not going quite as low as the 96, but again, because he has that experience up on the top side of the racetrack, if he gets to them, we have seen that the top side can work. If you want to run up against the wall all night, no, that's why he goes down. It's the quickest way around the racetrack. It's a little bit better on those tires as well, but a one machine, if he can get there, a little bit of an added weapon, he closes that gap in. The top 2 still about 1.5 car lengths apart. They try to pull away, though. George brings the gap down to less than half a second between the 2 of them as a big fight goes on just outside the top 10, and it's all behind Jonathan Cadell. Starts with the 21 of Matt Lacrosse, who's really tight at it too, almost getting into the 8 of Chad Cole.
Yeah, and you're getting a look at the onboard with Jonathan Cadell, the rig cam here tonight that we have on LSRTV, so you're really getting a look at some of the emotion and some of what he's going through as he's trying to fight Brian Macklin to keep the hounds behind him. This is a very physical racetrack, and it's going to be a very physical race. I know it's shorter than the 150-lap race we had back here in the spring, only 125 laps tonight, so it's a little bit less. It's not necessarily a sprint race, but boy, it can really wear on you, and you've got to manage that pretty well. You can do that a little bit while you're leading the race, but you've also got to manage it the longer and longer we go into these green flag stints.
Yeah, you certainly don't want to overdrive the car at all during any part of the run, because if you get the tires hot, if you wear them out just a little bit too much at any point in the run, it's going to kill your entire race. And we see Dan Murray back here. He's in the middle of this mix right now. He was your pole sitter, and right now he's battling with EJ O'Rourke for about the 14th, 15th position. He's actually going to give way to EJ, and now he's battling with Matt Lacrosse. So your pole sitter is really struggling here just 30 laps in. It's kind of surprising to see, and one of your chase contenders, he can't afford to have a run like this. He's going to need to try to get back up there as soon as possible. This is not what he needs here tonight. And like you said, this is a much shorter race than it was back in the spring. He can't afford to give up this much time. He doesn't have as many laps to make him back up, so he's really going to need to get up on the wheel and try to make some time up here.
Right now, we are just about 1/4 distance through tonight's running here at the Charlotte Motor Speedway. Coming up right now on 50 miles complete at the 1.5-mile oval. And Anthony DeBarro, Mitch Rollo, those RCO Boomtown Sim teammates, the Chevrolets run 1 and 2. It's a party of the bow ties. All the top 5 Chevrolet drivers, Thomas George, David Comstock, Jet Ward, and the rest of the field chasing. As we go to break, we remind you that from Charlotte Motor Speedway, you're watching Live Sim Racing TV.
Trucking has always been a part of me. It started years ago when my dad and granddad were hauling vegetables to market in Liverpool. The family immigrated to Canada in the late 60s and settled near Alliston, Ontario. I bought my first truck in 1982 and Mercer Trucking was born. Today, Mercer Trucking has over 50 trucks in terminals in Toronto and Los Angeles. Our storage facilities at both terminals can handle any size of distribution needs throughout North America. We service the continental U.S., including Hawaii and Alaska. We run over 120,000 miles per month and some of the best equipment on the road today. We specialize in less than truckload shipments, show freight, we do rush team service deliveries, and haul your refrigerated or heated product. Our regular team service from Canada to California is second to none, and our staff and drivers are among the best in the business. I'm proud of our people and what they can achieve. Trucking is in my blood, it's my livelihood, and it's what I do best.
Welcome back to LSRTV, and gonna get a replay right now because while we were away at break, very, very dicey moment. I believe Justin Rosenau, you described it as the 49 of Jake Higgins bought the wall. How on earth did everybody miss it?
Well, you're talking about the caliber of the drivers here in the RSR Full Throttle Cup Series. Like we were talking about in the pre-race, qualifying separated the top 27 by just 0.3 of a second. In order to be that good of a driver, well, you got to be fast, and everybody else showed that why they're qualified to run here in this series, getting around a very, very ill-handling number 49. As you see the 42 of Scott Stenzel in that Jeff Gordon throwback, try to get around the 49 of Jake Higgins as well. So Higgins, very, very ill-handling most of the Canadian car there on the racetrack. Going to have to see if he comes down to the attention of his pit crew, because he certainly bought the wall out of turn 2 the lap later after that replay.
How about the Hornets' Nest back around 20th position? Nick Silver, Adam Benefield, Doug Roth, Steve Gottschalk, 91, 25, 77, 43. They're all in the middle of a mess, 7. They're working about 9 seconds behind your race leader, Mitch Rollo, right now, who also took the lead while we were away at commercial. But this is why I questioned Adam Benefield's early pit stop. He's right back there in the middle of a nightmare right now.
Yeah, and this is that fight that we were talking about before we stepped away, except at that time it was up at around 13th position. Well, once you get a log jam going, you get a couple of guys side by side, everybody behind them joins the party. So the guys we were talking about before, Jonathan Cadell, EJ O'Rourke and company, they have now gotten single foul out. They've gotten clear. They leave the rest of the guys behind them. So you got a guy like the 91 Gottschalk. He's now trying to get away. But Benefield, we know he's quick. He's back in traffic. He's trying to find a way through. He's working around some cars that he's most likely faster than. Big thing for him is you can't just go right at it because you're going to use those tires up, but also if you're that much quicker, you have to set him up and make a smart move instead of forcing it right here to the inside. The 91 wants to split on the 7, Jacob. If the 91 doesn't go down low, the 77 makes that move, but because Gottschalk goes down low, he holds off and stays in line.
Yeah, and I'm telling you, these guys from about Nelson Rivera, who rides 17th, on back through Brian Harvey in 22nd, all within 0.6 of a second of each other, all going at it hard right now. That battle between the 7 and the 91 for 17th on the racetrack. Gottschalk Brian just not giving it an inch right now. He will not let this go.
Yeah, he is fighting really hard on the outside line right now, and he's doing what he needs to do. This is part of racing. You got to go out there and race these guys hard. He's doing a good job as now. They almost look 3 wide as they go down the front straightaway here. The 77 peeked out there for a second. He thought better of it. He's going to stay to the inside right now of the 7 machine, but these guys are racing hard mid-pack here. This is just some exciting stuff. It's allowed a couple of these guys in front of them to get away. Just a few laps ago, EJ O'Rourke and Jonathan Cadell and Matt LaCrosse, they were all a part of this battle, and now they're about 1.5 seconds ahead. They sorted it out, they got away from it, and now they are actually starting to catch up.
Oh, contact behind the 34 got turned!
How about that? And we're going down to the grass. Caution flag flies. It started with Nelson Rivera, Evan right here in front of us on the front straightaway.
Yeah, and it was all there coming through 4. That log jam behind them. The 34 going to coast slowly through the grass, but right behind that fight, I was about to ask you, Jacob, if the 77's on your bumper, would you be afraid? And the 77 being a little bit patient, the 91 knew that he had to get going, so it looked like they had just started to cooperate, and then that 7 on the inside of the racetrack, Nelson Rivera, just gets tight coming off of 4, something that most guys have been complaining about getting loose. They make contact that shoots the 7 up the hill. The 34 eventually gets turned around after those guys got stuck together. Bounty turns down the racetrack, the caution flag comes out.
So caution flag for just the 3rd time tonight. We actually had a pretty solid green flag run, 29 laps before that yellow coming out on lap number 45. Mitch Rollo, your race leader, ahead of Anthony DeBarro, David Comstock, Thomas, George, and Jeff Ward. We'll reset the grid for you here in just a moment, but I believe we're going to have a date with Pit Road, Justin Rosenau, because after a long green flag run, everybody's headed towards you.
Them 4 Goodyear tires are going to be asked for on all these machines 30 laps into the run, and like everybody was saying, this is very abrasive surface here at the Charlotte Motor Speedway. Going to eat up a lot of these Goodyear tires as you see Mitch Rollo, your leader, get into his pit stall cleanly, right side up on that machine very quickly, along with the 9 of Anthony DeBarro as well. Left side's going up on those respective machines. Thomas George looks like he's going to have a very fast pit stop. As his crew gets the jack down and away, it looks like Eric Brundy's is going to win the battle off of pit road, possibly 2 tires there. But the 1 of Thomas George is going to be the first car off of pit road on 4 tires.
Yeah, Brundy's took 2, so he'll go to the front. Mitch Rollo, very slow. Oh boy, there it is, the call from both the sim and race control. Speeding, exiting pit road. Evan, those are the mistakes you cannot make in a championship fight like this.
You can't get away with that, and it's an interesting situation because he goes down to the number 4 pit stall, so he's the second closest car to the end out of anybody else. You had teammates behind him, the 87 Hurlo. Hurlo overshot his stall. It's not like he was exiting the pit lane and had a big challenge. He saw the 1 machine behind him, and I think that's what it was. Again, you're trying to beat guys at a pit road in front of you. He gets clocked at that stripe at about 61 miles an hour, and instead of maybe worst case scenario finding yourself behind DeBarro, maybe Thomas J. George, you're going to find yourself behind well more than just them.
Let's take a look at this, Brian, and kind of break this down a little bit, because it was not just a little bit he was caught speeding. It was a goodly bit that he was caught speeding as you take a look at it here on the LSRTV replay.
Yeah, he was blatantly speeding on pit road there, and it was just a classic case where a driver just wasn't thinking. He just was focused on so many other things that he got down on pit road, and he made a mental error, and it unfortunately cost him not only the race lead but a lot of track position, and he's got a lot of work to do. This was a big mistake for a chase contender here. Fortunately, he's still got about 75 laps to make it up, but it's going to be a big hit on his chances to win this race tonight. He's going to have a lot of work to do ahead of him.
And as we reset here, crossing the line on lap 48, looks like Rich Jet may have stayed out, Evan, to grab a bonus point for leading a lap. I did not see the 36 on pit road, and that Godzilla Chevrolet will make his way to pit road this time and hand the lead over to the 9 of Anthony DeBarro once again. So DeBarro going to go to the point here under caution on lap 49, and I like this strategy right now. DeBarro just quietly doing exactly what he needs to do to make it happen tonight. You know, he's got the closer, Thomas George, on that high side in second for this restart. But, you know, that 9 car has had sheer speed tonight, so I like his positioning.
And I don't think he's planning on taking it easy up front. Again, the number 9, the number 1, we've seen these guys race hard all season long. You don't want to open up the door for somebody and put them in a position to make a move. Again, if somebody goes and makes a move and you call it maybe a little bit too aggressive at lap 50, you have an argument. But when you're talking about the chase, you're talking about 2 guys that it could come down to. You don't want to give that guy an opportunity to make a mistake that affects both of you. Hold the bottom like we were talking about with Comstock a little bit earlier, and I think that those cars on the inside lane on the restarts here, especially the control car, they have been very good. I expect DeBarro, if he can get a good jump, he shouldn't have much of a problem. What he wants is he wants Jeff Ward to try to fight for a second, maybe hold those guys off a little bit.
Sure he does. Pace car heads for pit road. Field back in the hands of Anthony DeBarro. The American Ethanol green flag goes back in the air. This restart powered by American Ethanol. American made, American grown, and a proud supporter of NASCAR. We're back underway. DeBarro to the point. Thomas George. Jeff Ward, the teammates out of the Steel Horse Racing stable, going at it for P2. Advantage, Jeff Ward, as the 2 guys, Brian Macklin, who have battled all season long. Anthony DeBarro, Jeff Ward, they now ride in the front 2 spots.
Yeah, it's amazing. When you look back to a couple of the other series that RSR ran here earlier in the year, Jeff Ward and Anthony DeBarro were the 2 guys we talked about week in and week out. And here, now that we are in the chase here in the Full Throttle Cup Series, we're talking about them once again. First and second here on the track after 52 laps. And it's amazing to see these guys are still duking it out just like they did back in the Outlaw Truck Series and the Asphalt Assault Series. They're doing exactly what they were doing there, and it's amazing. It's awesome. It's so great to see. I'm really excited to see Dwayne Vincent up to P3. He had that win a few weeks ago. He hasn't had the success he's wanted all year long, though. This is certainly looking to be the right time to step his game up. He won a couple of weeks ago. Now he's sitting 3rd. I'm really excited for Dwayne.
How about Mitch Rollo? Restarted 29th. He has already charged up 3 positions. He is looking for more. He's back there with your pole sitter, Dan Murray. A very fast race car. We know he is moving forward. Justin Rosenau, what's the word on the 96? Has he said anything on the radio since that speeding penalty?
A lot of colorful words. I mean, I know I keep saying that about a lot of these drivers, but the pressure is immense. We have just 3 races before we eliminate another set of 4 drivers, and if you're Mitch Rollo, you do not want that penalty to hamper you going forward through the next couple of races. So Rollo's really in an all-or-nothing dash, trying to race his way back up through the field, and he's told his team, I'm very focused, I screwed it up, I want to correct it. So that's where we stand with the driver, the 96.
We also stand 54 laps into 125 tonight at the Charlotte Motor Speedway. Anthony DeBarro leads Jeff Ward, Dwayne Vincent, Thomas George, David Comstock. 5 chasers make up the first 5 positions. Christopher Hurlow, Greg Evans, Jonathan Cadell, Scott Simley, and former series champ Chad Cole. The rest of your top 10 as we roll to break from Charlotte Motor Speedway. This is LSRTV, the voice of sim racing. We're coming back a little early from commercial, watching the charge of Mitch Rollo, the 96, up through the field with the 5 of Dan Murray. Dicey moment as he almost gets collected up off turn number 2. I believe, Evan, that was the 49 of Jake Higgins again. He holds on to it. Rollo comes through. He's trying to follow Dan Murray back to the front. These two fast cars at the back of the field. 3 wide as Murray looks to the bottom of Matt Lacrosse, and he's got Steve Gottschalk and others ahead of him. This is a mess.
And albeit we had a caution flag there, but I mean, this Hornet's Nest goes from about 12th back to 15th. Now it's just about an 18th. How about the 79 of Joseph LaPlaca moving forward to the inside, makes the move on Rhett McBride. He'll bump up a spot. McBride wants it back. That's what's in front of this bottleneck behind the 94 of Brundy's. He rides on his own single file. It's all good up there. And then you got the 2 wide, 2 rows deep. The 91, the 21, the 52, and the 5. Again, Dan Murray slowly slid back on that long green flag run. He's having problems getting back forward. Watch him, watch Rollo to do the same thing. Rollo started 4th, Dan Murray started 1st. Both of those drivers run 23rd, 22nd, respectively. A long way to go to get back to where they want as the 5 bobbles into the corner, and Rollo gonna make a move on him, but still quite the amount of time to do so.
Mitch Rollo is being very, very calculated right here. I just heard him say over the radio, we cannot afford to get taken out, as he really rolls out of the throttle, trying to avoid Sean Casto, who's on the move underneath Steve Gottschalk, and clear. That's going to be for 21st. Next up is Rhett McBride. This right now, the best battle on the racetrack. Watching these guys come through slower traffic. McBride gives way. Rollo moving to the top 20. But I'm telling you, Brian, it is intense right now as we watch these guys. These are chase contenders that are trying to work their way through and could be putting their championship at risk if they make one wrong move.
Yeah, this is a hairy situation for both Dan Murray and Mitch Rollo. They are in a very bad situation right now, being back there in the 20th and 21st position. They have to mind their P's and Q's immediately right now and try not to get involved in anything. Same with Eric Brundy. He's right in front of these guys in the 17th position, now the 18th position, as he's going to get past 4 position there as they go across to complete lap 63. These guys are all in a tight spot, and this is 3 major contenders that we expected to be in the final 8, that if they don't have a good finish tonight, it's greatly going to hurt their chances to advance into the next round. So they've really got to try to get their cars back up towards the front, and hopefully they can salvage a good finish here at this point.
They're trying to salvage, but as Brundy's falls back, we just completed halfway last time by now, 64 of 125 in the books. So let's take a look at our LSRTV mid-race report powered by Ford. It is not a blue oval out front. Instead, it's a group of Chevrolets, 7 strong, led by Anthony DeBarro in the 9 car out in front by a second and change over the 89 of Jeff Ward. Dwayne Vincent in the 13 rides 3rd. Thomas George in 4th, David Comstock rounding out the top 5. Then it's Christopher Hurlow, Greg Evans, Scott Simley, Adam Benefiel has worked his way. now up into the 9th position after starting second and making an early race pit stop, and EJ O'Rourke rounding out the top 10.
And sitting just back one more spot on the move forward up 10 spots from the start. You got Chad Cole just behind him. The 11 Jonathan Cadell trying to get back to a single-digit running spot. Doug Roth, quiet night, but a great night so far. He's about past 19 different drivers to sit in the unlucky number 13 spot, or maybe lucky for him at this point. He actually wants to make a move on Cadell for that spot. Just behind him, you got Brian Harvey, the 66. He's still in around 14th position. Behind him, Nick Silver. Good improvement for the driver that was eliminated from championship contention 1 week ago in 15th. Joseph LaPlaca up 10 spots to 16th. 17th is Matt Lacrosse. 18th right now, Sean Casto. Then you'll find Eric Brundys, Dan Murray, two guys that started top 10 to round out your top 20 as they fight down to turn 1.
Yeah, they're going wheel to wheel with Mitch Rollo watching in 21st. He was just up in that 19th position, got the tires a little warm. Oh, Murray and Brundys nearly touch, fighting for that 19th position. Again, Rollo back there 21st, Rhett McBride 22nd, Steve Gottschalk 23rd, Tom Dreiling 24th, Brennan Mercer 25th, eliminated last week, Rich Jett 26th, 27th, Scott Stenzel, 28th, Nelson Rivera, 29th, Tushawn Bounty, 30th, Paul Fugate.
And in the 31st position is the number 49 of Jake Higgins. 32nd is Ryan Vaughn. Joey Katina is 13 laps down and currently out of the race in the 33rd position. Douglas White is 34th. Ben Burnett 35th. Eric Arnold 36th. And 37th is Jose Gonzalez. All of those drivers are currently out of the race. And Jacob, we have an intense battle still going on with your 3 chase contenders, Mitch Rollo, Eric Brundys, and Dan Murray back here around the 20th position.
Not just intense, Mitch Rollo just got a piece of the back end of Eric Brundys down the front straightaway. He had to back off to keep from damaging that car even more. I almost started to say trouble because it looked like it was going to be a huge wreck involving some of these guys, Evan. They are not giving each other any space. They're nowhere near the front, and yet they're fighting like it's the last lap.
Outside the top 20, and as they run right now, over 8.5 seconds back for the race lead. Now, again, we talked about how calculated they were going to be. They were when they were passing the guys behind them. Tom Dreiling, Brennan Mercer, Rich Jett, Scott Stenzel, okay. But now, they're kind of in a bubble. They have a little bit of a gap until they get up to the next pack of cars, and those are 4 guys single file with the 79 of LaPlaca, Casto, Lacrosse, and Silver. Those guys aren't all that slow in themselves, and they're fighting amongst themselves. So what these guys are seeing is, you got 3-4 guys that should be top 10, top 15 cars. They want to be the first person to get to that group, Jacob, because they know in that last big fight they had how long it can take to navigate through that. They want to be the first one to get there so they don't get held up.
Who would have thought that the battle that we were watching 1 year ago for the win between Mitch Rollo and Eric Brundys would tonight be the battle for 22nd and 23rd on the racetrack? All a cause of a myriad of problems for both of these drivers that we'll recap here in just a little bit. Eric Brundys shuffled out early. Mitch Rollo, the victim of a speeding penalty on our most recent round of pit stops. But meanwhile, let's look all the way back to the front of the field, Brian, where we find the 9 of Anthony DeBarro. That Chevrolet almost 2 seconds clear of Jeff Ward. He's doing a masterful job right now. Caution flag out.
Yep.
Caution flag will drop, and we're hearing problems with the 43. We were just talking about Doug Roth. He gets some damage in all of this, and it looks like the 66 machine going to be the other driver involved, Brian Harvey. That car already coming down to the pit lane, and he'll come up over the radio. The 66 claims the cause of the caution, but not the first time we've seen a situation like this. 43 in front of him, catches the wall, comes down, tags Brian Harvey, and therefore you see Doug Roth, who got into the fence, claiming responsibility for the incident. Both of those guys pretty hard into the outside wall, and that was a fight in front of our leaders that we had been talking about. They were in a close situation as well, trying to get through that one.
Yeah, it was very tight. Anthony DeBarro, your leader. Dwayne Vincent in that Haviland Ford had just taken over second before the caution flew. We'll recap pit stops and reshuffle the running order when we come back from Charlotte Motor Speedway. You're watching Live Sim Racing TV.
Back live at the Charlotte Motor Speedway, the lights are off on top of the pace car as we get set for another restart, and the 9 of Anthony DeBarro back up in front of the field right now. Familiar competition in and around him, but the standings have shuffled immensely under this cycle of pit stops. Brian, it seems like the pressure, we knew that was going to be up coming into round number 2, but a lot of guys really feeling it now.
Yeah, several of these guys having some serious issues early on in this race. We talked about Dan Murray and Eric Brundies, Mitch Rollo. Now we have Greg Evans with a pit road speeding penalty as well, sending several of these drivers deep in the field. All 4 of these drivers are top contenders we expected to be in the final 8. They're going to have a lot of work to do in the last 50 laps if they're going to get back up there.
We're ready to go green flag once again. DeBarro and Vincent. Vincent in a technical alliance with those Boomtown Sim cars. So going to get a little bit of help. We know that Anthony DeBarro has learned a lot from the help of Adam Benefield, Dwayne Vincent, the last couple of races. And as we flash back to the green flag, he pulls away from his veteran mentor and rides to turn number 1 as Jeff Ward and Vincent going at it. Dwayne Vincent did not get a great restart, Evan. He falls all the way back to a battle for 3rd with David Comstock. May lose that position, may yet lose another position as you got the 87 of Christopher Hurlow back there as well.
He needs to get clear this time at a 4, and he's going to be able to get the job done. So the power move, really, though, a recovery move to not have it any worse, kind of stop the bleeding. He'll hang on to 3rd. Not the first time tonight we've seen a driver up on the outside fall back. The 89 has done a very good job, though, at pressuring down to turns 1 and 2 on the restarts. He read, by the way, what was an exceptional restart from Anthony DeBarro. Read that very well. Got himself up to 2nd, so the Unical 76 Chevy and Jeff Ward, he's up there. Vincent 30, got Comstock, then Hurlow through your top 5. And Adam Benefield wants to join the party. He's P6.
Mitch Rollo is a man on a mission. 5 cars he passed in 1 lap. He has passed 8 cars since the restart. Mitch Rollo, Brian Macklin, 19th to 11th in 3 miles.
Yeah, he is doing exactly what he needs to do if he's going to advance into the next round. That was an impressive restart from Mitch Rollo. Amazing as we have a caution on the racetrack once again here at the Charlotte Motor Speedway. It does look like Brennan Mercer was involved in this wreck. He is turned around in the middle of 3 and 4, working lap number 82. Now we have another caution on the racetrack.
19th to 9th in a 3-lap green flag run as the caution flies on lap number 81. Jake Higgins claiming that caution, Evan. We'll get a look at the replay here, and it's just dicey. It's go time.
Well, they were 4 wide going down the back straightaway. We just talked about how Rollo passed 5 cars in between turn 4 and in between turn 1 on 1 trip down the front straightaway. You'll see the replay on this now. The 42's up top, the 23's there. That's your first fight. Then you got 2 guys making it side by side down low, and it's Brennan Mercer who actually backs out of it to take it easy, gets hit from behind. Jake Higgins claims responsibility for the accident. Those are the 2 guys, Jacob, that had actually backed out to avoid an incident, and in both doing so at the same time, they get together, they both go around in the corner.
Under caution, and this is one of those now. We're closing in on 40 laps to go. Brian, it's dicey. I'm going to walk over to the corner here, pull up the technology, and see if we can't dial up Mitch Rollo on the radio. But while I'm doing that, what a run he's had in these last few laps.
Yeah, that was an incredible restart. That was an absolutely amazing drive. He showed right there why he deserves to be in the next round of the chase. He's done an incredible job rebounding from the pit road speeding penalty. He's sitting in the 9th position right now, which is very respectable considering about 10 laps ago, he was back there around the 20th, 21st position, and it looked like he was in trouble as far as the points were concerned. Now he's got an opportunity where he's back up into the top 10 and can certainly make a good night out of this. So very impressive run for him, and look forward to seeing him get back to the front.
Well, let's see. He's almost back to the front now. Let's dial him up. Mitch Rollo, it's the broadcast booth. You got a copy, bud?
Yeah, I got you.
Huh. What a restart for you. 19th to 9th in about 4 miles. What was that like? You were 8th of the 12 chasers in this field coming to green, and you took off like a rocket ship. What'd you find?
Last one. just stay out of trouble. There's a big wad of cars in front of me. I didn't want to get wadded up in a wreck, and I told Jared for that restart there, I said, I got to go for this or I'm just going to go nowhere. So I just put the pedal to the metal, and luckily it stuck. I apologize to the 79 for dive bombing a little bit there in 1 and 2, but I had to do it. Had to get some of that track position back after I messed up on pit road. So I just got to focus forward and keep on moving up to the front here.
You're back, actually, I think, going to get moved to 8th here as we score you. Now that you're up inside the first 4 rows, you can see your teammate Anthony DeBarro again. Do you have the speed to drive up there and give him a run?
Yeah, I think so. You know, if I can just keep the fenders on the car and you know, save the tires a little bit, now that I'm up to 8th now, I can kind of relax a bit more. I don't really feel like doing what I did that last restart again. That was kind of scary. So, but we'll see what we can do here. I'm gonna go try and give Anthony a run for his money here.
10-4, my friend. Glad to have you along for the ride. Glad to be along for the ride, and best of luck. 40 to go, my friend.
Thanks, Jacob.
All right, Evan. What did you hear that you liked out of that? This is a driver that is very determined. He knows what he's got to do. He just took a big step towards doing it here on this last run. Now he's up back in the contenders here, and he's got 2 teammates just ahead of him. DeBarro leading this race, Herlo in 4th. It could be a whole lot of fun over these last 40 laps.
Well, we talk about how these guys, when we get on a green flag run, it doesn't even have to be a long one. They find themselves in groups. We were talking about how when we had all these guys fighting as the lights go off at a pace car, when these guys were fighting, they were fighting pretty hard back in 20th. That's because they wanted to be the lead car in that little group that they had going of the guys so they could be the first one to get to the next group. I'm surprised they didn't say what I figured out was if you close your eyes, you can make a lot more passes because eventually you can be conservative, but the key thing there is, as you said, just about 40 laps to go. You can't take it easy anymore. If you pass those guys 1 car at a time, it'll take you 5 laps at best. You do it in 1 swing of the bat. That's how you get the job done. It's risky, but it paid off that time by, and it was a good gamble.
Yeah, it was a really good gamble, and I'll tell you who I like right now with 40 laps to go, sitting in the 3rd position, David Comstock. We talked earlier how he wasn't that fast in practice. He didn't have a very good qualifying lap, but once again, he does it every single week. We're down to the last 50 laps of the race, last 40 laps of the race. He's in the top 3. He's got a fast race car. I think David Comstock is certainly going to get up there and challenge for this race win.
So with that, we get set to go back on it, and again, just inside now of 40 laps to go. The pace car gonna dive down and out of the way. DeBarro needs one more good one. He'll get it as the green flag flies, and back and away we go. The 14 wants to challenge for a second. Everything getting log jammed back up in the middle of the pack, but it looks like, for the most part, they all make it down to turn 1, not unscathed, though.
And yet we stay green. We'll get a look at the replay now. This was chaos from about mid-pack on back, Evan, and I'm still trying to figure out how we didn't end up with a caution.
Yeah, right in front of the 23 on the inside of the racetrack. You'll see the replay now. Ryan Vaughn, a little bit to the middle. He doesn't really get going. He does, and then he hits the brakes. The 23 behind him needs to get up on the gas. He does the same thing. Unfortunately, it just happened to be about the 7th row in line. This could have happened out front. It could have happened behind him. That's where the contact is. Greg Evans gets into the 28. He goes up. They turn Nick Silver. The 89 gets involved. Everybody behind them gets jacked up. And you were talking about Rollo getting out of the mess. He was not all that long ago back there with Jeff Ward and Thomas J. George, who were all right in the middle of that accident.
Yeah, and now as we work lap number 89, Anthony DeBarro has stretched it out to about a half a second lead over David Comstock, who moved up into the 2nd position on that restart. Dwayne Vincent is in 3rd. All 3 of these guys part of the chase grid in the final 12 right now. Then you have Adam Benefield, who's been off and on all season long. He's up into the 4th position. He would certainly love to spoil the chase contenders party with a win here of his own tonight. That would be a big deal for him. He's certainly looking strong right now, and as they work down into turn number 1 again, it looks like David Comstock's starting to close the gap. He gained about a 10th on Anthony DeBarro that last time by. It's going to be interesting to see, though, with 35 laps to go, if he is saving his tires well enough to be able to keep up with Anthony on the long run. We have seen Anthony, he has been extremely fast on the long run all night long.
And so with that gap up front that was about half of a second, it slowly begins to close now. Comstock brings it down to 3/10. It's down to Wayne Vincent, who sits half a second out. 3 cars there. You throw Betterfield into the mix as well. They are all trying to catch up on Navarro, who again has continued to perfect those restarts tonight. A big reason and why he has such a big gap to work with. Ryan Vaughn a little bit high in the corner. Thomas J. George going to make a pass. That was back in 14th, where we saw the last side-by-side battle on track take place, and it looks like that 28 machine, again, he got hit in the back end by Greg Evans. That car definitely appears to be affected because the 5 to the inside, and now the 11 of Cadell trying to make a move as well. Ryan Vaughn trying to get through this race, almost gets sideways at a 2, just about took out the 11. They all hang on though.
Yeah, very, very intense moment for all of these drivers back here in the middle of the pack. Of course, Dan Murray, he can't afford to have anything go wrong now. He's in the 16th position. He needs to keep trying to make his way forward. He's actually battling hard with Jonathan Cadell for the 15th position. Looks like Jonathan's going to win that battle for the time being. Meanwhile, back up front, Anthony DeBarro has started to reopen that race lead. We saw it get down to just around 0.3 of a second. It's now back up to 0.4 of a second. He's starting to pull away here. Dwayne Vincent has maintained a half a second gap behind him. If he can get around David Comstock, he might be able to get up there and challenge Anthony for this lead.
In the 11th machine, you see Cadell up to the outside of the racetrack. He tries to get through it around Steve Gottschalk. That fight for 14th. The outside, which has really only been a legitimate option off of the restarts tonight, comes into a play here. The 11 gets the job done. The 5 will do the same. And Gottschalk going to be another one of those drivers that slowly starts to sink as we work some green flag laps. Just about 6 out of lap 1, number 100. A battle for the number 10 spot, the 94 to the outside lane. Jeff Ward, he wants to get back in the party to the inside. He'll make the move. He'll kick the 94 outside of the top 10.
He will, and I'm impressed with the rally for Eric Brundys right now, finally cracking the top 10 or 11. You also got to keep watching, Evan. We've been talking about it the last little bit, the run by the 96 of Mitch Rollo. He's now up to the top 5, closing in on the 2 cars with whom he shares a technical alliance in Adam Benefield, Dwayne Vincent. They ride 3rd and 4th behind David Comstock, and that's a tight 3-man wad battle for the runner-up position off turn 2.
And those guys have been like that, and they were closing on Anthony DeBarro because they weren't really playing around with each other. Now, though, they've kind of stalled out. 0.4 of a second gap. DeBarro likes that, and they're not fighting. Again, the 13 in the middle, he's just kind of a passenger. The 77 of Benefield, if he's quicker than these guys at all, not forcing the issue, they're riding. We talked about how we get into the final laps of this race, closing in on what's going to be 25 to go here momentarily. They still have quite some time. The problem is, if you look at that interval, 2nd to 1st, which is the second lead, that group of 3 cars up to the race lead, it's still 0.4 of a second. You guys can continue to ride like this. If you're a little bit faster than the guy in front of you, you don't force it. You do it now, you lose time. If that gap starts to grow, though, then you have to go. But I think these guys played it smart right now, and they picked up a couple of tenths that last time through. The gap now down to less than 4. It's 37 100ths as they slowly start to fan out at a turn 2. Comstock still leads the way.
As he does that, we're closing in on 25 laps to go. DeBarro, Comstock, Vincent, Benefield, Rollo, Hurlo, your top 6 as we close in on the tail end of this race from Charlotte Motor Speedway. You're watching the RSR Full Throttle Cup Series chase for the championship Motor Speedway.
It's been a very long offseason. Teams have changed, sponsors have changed, colors and all, but one thing that hasn't, they like to match the wow pedal. Green flag is out on the 2015 NASCAR Peak Antifreeze Series season.
iRacing is the ideal platform for these broadcasts because we have the best racers, the best online racers in the world, and we have such a variety of racing from NASCAR to Grand Prix style racing, sports car endurance racing. We do it all.
Since 2010, the iRacing.com World Championship Grand Prix Series has been the absolute pinnacle of road racing in a simulated form. Great start then by Yakoda from the front. They're packing up behind him one. They're going to be 4 wide as they come down into turn 1 for the first time. Will they make it through that first corner? You can see them funneling through the center S's. It looks though everyone is just about made it through. We have got ourselves some contact though, Rachel.
Side by side going into turns 3 and 4. Humpy's got the advantage, but Ottinger's not going to.
Oh, he got into him!
Ottinger gets into the 58, turns right into him, and that ends Ottinger's run.
We do a lot of live broadcasts now. Every Tuesday is NASCAR night, so on alternating Tuesdays we do the Peak Antifreeze Series, and on the other Tuesdays the B-Class Series, which is the Xfinity cars, and sometimes we'll even do some short track racing depending on the schedule. Every other Saturday we do the iRacing World Championship Grand Prix Series, so the best road racers we have. And we also broadcast some special events, including the Endurance Championship, which is part of the Road Warrior Series. So we broadcast the Daytona 24, the Sebring 12-hour, we'll do the Watkins Glen 6-hour, several other races along there, and then of course the iRacing Pro Racing Champions, which is usually our biggest and most watched event of the year.
That is short track racing, and that's how awesome this sim is, Joe. That's something you see on TV on highlight reels, and we just saw it here, live.
We invite iRacers who are real-world racers, and they compete every December. Guys like Alex Gurney, Justin Wilson, Scott Speed, Ron Capps, the list goes on. Really some big-name drivers from all major forms of motorsport. It's really neat to see them get together and race together.
See Laughlin up top, down to the ball, gets turned! Laughlin gets turned! Caution is out foul at the front of the field!
The easiest place to find the broadcast is on our website, iracing.com/live. So you can find some of our races on fanschoice.tv as well. Nice place to find iRacing.
Welcome back to LSRTV. 20 laps to go. Next time by here at Charlotte Motor Speedway, the fourth race of the RSR Full Throttle Cup Series chase for the championship. Anthony DeBarro now holding a slim lead over David Comstock, who wants his 6th race win of the season, and he has closed the gap mightily now. It's a 1/10 of a second, just about a car length as they cross the stripe. 20 to go this time. Let's run you through the top 5, starting with the leader, Anthony DeBarro, who has led the majority of this race, locked up that bonus point for most laps led. He wants to ink his position in the next round, the round of 8, Evan, but behind him, the guy who has won more races this season, in fact 5 of them on the year, than anybody else, David Comstock, closing in to make it happen.
Well, we asked if he's a championship contender. 11th wasn't going to cut it. There's the speed, though, that we're looking for. He rides in second and is separating himself from Dwayne Vincent. So Dwayne falls 8/10 off in third. Behind them, you have Christopher Hurlow. Relatively quiet night for the guy that's running inside the top 5 after just squeaking in by 4 points into the round of 12. He sits there just in front of Scott Simley. A great run for the 15 machine. Not sure how long that'll last, though. The 89 Jeff Ward in 6th coming up quick. Mitch Rollo coming up quick in 7th. 8th is Georgia got Evans, 9th, and O'Rourke in 10th.
Battle for the lead in turn number 1, coming down to 17 laps to go. David Comstock takes the dive to the bottom. Anthony DeBarro holding that middle lane as they work off turn 2. He's got the momentum down the back straightaway. Comstock falls back into line, gonna make another run out of it, and maybe off turn number 4. Falls a car length back to DeBarro, holding his ground. And Brian, this is one of those moves where you gotta be careful if you're David Comstock. If you burn it up too much trying to get around him, you won't get around him.
You got to be careful as both of these drivers right now. You don't want to be Anthony DeBarro overdriving this car either. You've had the best car all night. If you make a mistake now, you're not only going to cost yourself a shot at the win, but you're going to cost yourself a lot of time. And now David Comstock went from the outside to the inside. He dives to the inside as they go off into turn number 3. He's going to try to make the move for the race lead as they come off turn 4. It looks like Anthony DeBarro's almost in the wall as they come off turn 4. The advantage goes to David Comstock. David's going to lead at the stripe. He's almost clear to go into 1. I believe he did. He cleared him for the race lead here on lap 110.
He used him up, and that made it work. Lead change with now 16 laps to go. David Comstock, the man out in front, the man on the mission, looking for a win to advance him into the round of 8. He pulls now Anthony DeBarro by a car length and a half. How about DeBarro's teammate, Christopher Hurlow, all the way up to 3rd. DeBarro, though, not ready to give in. It's a 1/10 of a second to turn 1.
I'd mentioned that DeBarro, Comstock, when they were running in the opposite way with Comstock second, and they were pulling away from the Wayne Vincent. The 13 may actually just be slotting, because you mentioned Hurlow, now up in 3rd, was just in 4th a couple of laps ago. Thomas J. George to the inside of the racetrack. That's a fight for 4th. Not going to be much of a battle, though, as the one machine gets it rather easily. Vincent falls to 5th, and it looks like for the Havoline Ford Fusion, he just wants to stop the bleeding at this point. That car really going away on the long stretch as Comstock His car peaking just at the right time, and it looks like, since he's been able to get clear, he has no intentions of turning back, though. Caution flag will fly just as he started to pull away. Rhett McBride sideways in the middle of 1 and 2. The number 2 machine turned around, and the 28 of Ryan Vaughn squeezes in between him and the fence. He'll lose a couple of decals on the side of that machine, but it could have been a whole lot worse after the 2 machine just comes up on the 34 of Sean Boundy. Those 2 cars make contact. They head into the fence. You'll look at the replay, but all eyes as Comstock is set to catch the pace car is what happens on the final trip down the pit road with a restart on slate for less than 10 laps to go.
Okay, we got ourselves a throwdown now, boys. Rhett McBride limping with very heavy smoke towards the pit lane. What do? Do you take 2? Do you take 4? Nobody's going to stay out knowing how long a green flag run we've been on. It's just a matter of how many tires do you want and what track position can you get to win this race. Leaders are in, hopefully for the final time tonight. Justin Rosenau, it's down to you.
This is the money stop. You got the 14 of David Comstock on pit road, followed by 2 Boomtown cars, the 9 and the 87, Estabaro and Hurlo, along with the 1 of Thomas George. The 23 of Greg Evans stays out. He's going to stay on old tires. Going to cover the pit stops for the 9 and the 87, along with the 1. Right side's going up on those machines. Going to see if they drop the jack and take 4. 2 tires going to be on that machine as well. Comstock is well on 2 tires as well. The Boomtown car is going to take 2. Looks like Thomas George is going to take 4. It's going to be no versus 2 versus 4.
All right, so I'll go to the driver and defer on this one because, Brian Macklin, you know how these cars are going to react. I don't like the position Greg Evans is sitting in. I think he's a sitting duck, but can you hold off the field on 2 tires with less than 10 laps to go? Do you need a caution?
I like the 2-tire call if Greg Evans wasn't staying out here. With Greg Evans being in control of the restart, it's going to make it a lot harder for David Comstock and these other guys that took 2 tires to take advantage of this and be able to get away. Those guys that took 4 tires, Thomas George, Dwayne Vincent, Jeff Ford, they are going to be hounding all over these guys on the restart. And because they don't have the advantage of being able to go when the pace car leaves and have control of the restart, that's going to make it that much harder for them. The one thing they're going to have to watch with Greg is a little bit of tire spin. This thing is on old tires. The tires aren't going to have a lot of grip. They're going to be hot. They're going to be slick. And when he tries to put the gas down, it could get a little scary for him. And these guys are going to have to watch out around them. This could be a very interesting restart. It's going to be crazy to see what happens here.
All right, Evan, this is about to be fun. Greg Evans wants to steal a win and maybe advance to the next round, and I have to think this is a move he had to make to try and salvage any sort of point tonight because he was the one that was caught on one of these later race cautions for a speeding penalty and has had to fight his way back. I know he won't win the race, but maybe he can salvage a top 10 in points on this. I guess we'll have to see.
As long as he doesn't fall back further from where he was prior to the caution flag, and as long as he doesn't take a whole lot of guys out, it's a win regardless if he gets the checkered flag or not. Is he going to be the first one to take it? I don't think that there's any realistic chance of him winning the race unless we see a couple of caution flags, but we know how big tires have been. Not only that, but we know how aggressive these guys have been. They've been at each other's throats for 20th. Now you're waving a checkered flag and a free pass, not only just into the next round, but through Talladega to keep someone's championship hopes alive.
How big is that pass, though, Brian? You want to, if 2 chase drivers can win tonight and next week at Kansas, boy, you want to be one of those 2 because you will sleep like a baby before Talladega. Everybody's going to be a nervous wreck in 2 weeks' time when we get to the Mammoth Super Speedway because there, unless you've won, nobody's safe.
Yeah, absolutely. I talked about it in the pre-race. You want to win here at Charlotte or next week at Kansas, and right now there is 7 of the 8 chase drivers in the top 8. Mitch Roller's the furthest back in 10th, and all 8 of these guys really are going to be on it right here, trying to do everything they can to win this race, so they don't have to worry about Talladega. Talladega is the biggest wild card race you could possibly have in the chase, and with this elimination format, the last thing you want to do is go into that race and have to worry about points. So for all these guys, they're going to go out there and do everything they can in these last 10 laps.
It's time now. With 9 laps to go, you better put up or shut up here from Charlotte Motor Speedway. We're about to see what's going to throw down at the front of the field. Greg Evans, David Comstock, the 2 men out front. Pace cars on pit road. Comstock doesn't go. Evans does. DeBarro to second. Herlo trying to slice down through. And it's a drag race for second to turn 1.
23 got what he wanted. He wanted something to go on behind them. Problem is, it was too easy for DeBarro. DeBarro's there. Not a chance. 23 way high and just about into the fence down at a quarter number 2. Goodbye, Greg Evans.
Thomas George on the move. He's on 4 fresh ones. He's trying to make up some time. But if we stay green, the battle for the win may well be between the 9 and the 14. I don't know that George is going to have enough time. This time by it'll be 8 laps to go. And I stand corrected. Maybe George going for 4th in turn 1.
On the inside of the racetrack, 87 up top, not much of a defense there. The Wonder Machine, he'll power on through to the podium spot. Problem is about 3/4 of a second behind from the top 2 on track right now. That's it, DeBarro, then Comstock.
This is
14 sideways, he saves it, but that loses all the speed for the 14 machine.
That may be what wins Anthony DeBarro the race. I won't say it's done yet because Thomas George is on 4 fresh tires and got 7 laps to get there. He's now to second. DeBarro, your leader. Can he manage the gap, Brian? It's going to take a lot. They're 3 wide behind him.
3 wide as they go off into turn 3. Dwayne Vincent stuck it underneath David Comstock after Comstock had his major issue. They sorted out. Now they're 2 wide as they work off turn number 4. Christopher Herlo had the heat winner. He was going to be in a very bad position as they worked off there. Now we look back to the front here. Thomas George is on fire right now. He is running Anthony DeBarro down over 1/10 of a second a lap. He's got 6 laps to do it, 5.5 laps now, and he has got the best tires and the fastest car on the racetrack right now here.
I say it all the time, catching somebody's one thing, passing them's another. DeBarro's one of the best blockers in the business. The problem is, he's had a couple of run-ins with George this year. Could we reignite some bad blood, some old feuds tonight? We're about to find out.
Caution.
5 laps to go, and caution flag flies.
Caution flag will drop, and it looks like that may end the race. May not be enough time. Maybe, best case scenario, a 1-lap shootout. I said it was going to be big, it was going to be bad, and Nick Silver upside down into the catch fence. He's not the party at fault here, and somehow the wreck does not come for the 14 of Comstock. I'll tell you what, that car sideways off of every single turn. He hangs on, and it's behind them where a couple of guys run out of room, and the 11 machine trying to make a move. It's Cadell Jacob. He wants to go to the outside of the 15 in front of him. Problem is, he wasn't clear. He drove Sean Casto into the fence. The 52 got turned around.
Wow. Evan, what's that we had at the beginning of the year that hasn't come up in a while, but I think applies in this situation?
Well, there was a whole lot that went on there, and I can't tell you what all of it was, but it was exactly that, and that is that everything just unleashed here. They were 3 wide, and not 3 wide just on entry. I mean, they held it for the corner.
Brian Macklin, you're the driver. I'm blown away right now. That wasn't just a mess. That was the mess.
Yeah, that was an incredible battle. That was insane to watch, and the fact that they lasted as long as they did without wrecking was amazing to me, because typically you don't see them last as many laps as they did racing as hard as they were without causing a wreck. And unfortunately it is a fact of racing, and it brought this thing down to what could be a 1-lap dash, but I don't believe they're going to go back green. The drivers are talking as if this race is going to end. I've heard a lot of people congratulate Anthony DeBarro on his race victory, so the drivers don't anticipate going back green. So if that is the case, Anthony DeBarro was the class of the field tonight anyway. He had the best car, he led the most laps, and looks like he just punched his way into the next round of the chase.
I believe so. And I believe the way this is going to work, the leaders had already crossed the line to complete lap 120 before the caution came out, which means you would get the caution, come around to collect the caution at 4 laps to go, run 4 laps under yellow, Evan, and by my math, that means this race is over. If the lights don't go out right here, it is officially over.
And a lot of the time you'll see the other drivers congratulate somebody. Next thing you know, they get 2 to go. But if the lights don't go off now, again, you can't go green after lap 125. Pace car lights do not go out, and that's it. If the drivers had gotten the 2 to go, you probably would not have seen it. Congratulations on behalf of Rich Jet in the direction of Anthony DeBarro. Jonathan Cadell does claim the cause for that caution, but this race will not go back green. Anthony DeBarro, as long as and assuming he can do the next 3 miles under caution without any atrocious problems, he'll be good and be able to pick up the checkered flag.
And, you know, we talked about his first win at Daytona. They used a little bit of strategy on a late race pit stop to win that race. They did it again tonight, but boy, tonight, Brian, he just had a bad, fast race car. It didn't matter whether you put 2 tires or 4 tires on that 9 machine the entire night. He flat dominated this race.
Yeah, the only time we saw any kind of competition against Anthony DeBarro was when David Comstock ran him down in that last run, and then we had the caution come out that set the stage for the 2-tire pit stops and the insane finish that we saw here mid-pack and up towards the front. Anthony DeBarro has been fast all year long, though. It's no surprise to me whatsoever that he's going to win this race, and just an incredible statement this makes for him. Certainly got to look at Anthony DeBarro as one of the main championship contenders moving forward. He's been fast at every track we go to. He's got to win. He's going to get past Talladega. That's got to be the biggest thing for him. He doesn't have to go into Talladega and worry at all about what's going to happen. He knows he can go in there and do whatever he wants, and if he ends up on the hook, it's not going to matter. He's still in the next round.
That's exactly right. DeBarro, as he got the yellow and white this time by, he'll get caution checker when he gets back to the stripe. But Evan, you know, for this 9-team, second career win and second of the season, but most importantly, like Brian just alluded to, automatic ticket to the round of 8. He knows he's going to Martinsville, Texas, and Phoenix, the shot to ink his name in the Final Four at Homestead.
Yeah, and I said at the top, and he was kind of at the bottom of that. He was 25 points above the cut line, but for him, Comstock, George, Murray, and Ward, you're all above the cut line by a good margin, but if you have 3 other chase guys that win, that's not enough. Well, he got it done tonight. Now this is enough. And again, out of all the rounds you want to get a free pass into, you don't want to go to Talladega at all. The 9 machine, sleep easy tonight as he goes through 4.
Yes, he will. He's going to come to the caution and checkers behind the pace car, but he doesn't care because it means a free pass to the eliminator round. Second career win, first one on a 1.5-mile track. Anthony DeBarro to the flag. He wins at Charlotte Motor Speedway and punches his ticket. The round of 8, a congratulatory bump from the 1 of Thomas George. And how about, you know, I've got to ask you this, Brian. You're the driver. You were watching this battle coming down to the final laps just like we were. If we stay green, you think the 1 gets there?
Oh, absolutely. Thomas George was coming in a hurry. He had 4 fresh tires. Yes, Anthony DeBarro had the best car tonight, but in that situation, the tires were going to mean more than the faster race car. And if this thing had stayed green, we're talking about a completely different finish. Yes, Anthony still would have gotten a good finish, but he would not have won this race at all. I don't see any way where he would have been able to hold Thomas off. Thomas had way too fast of a car, and he had too many laps to make something happen.
Well, he's about to celebrate on the front straightaway. Anthony DeBarro is going to burn the place down in that 9 machine. He's earned it. Second career win in the RSR Full Throttle Cup Series, and it couldn't have come at a better time. The chase puts him through to the round of 8. We'll check with the grid, and we'll talk to our podium in just a moment. The celebration beginning for RCO Boomtown Sim. DeBarro, a winner at Charlotte. We're back with the post-race show right after this.
Did you know the lion's sense of vision is so powerful, it actually enables nearby creatures to see better? Here we see lions assisting the offspring of others, while their parents are elsewhere in the wild. Brilliant, isn't it? making the Wild Kingdom look much better indeed. Do good, be a lion.
Trucking has always been a part of me. It started years ago when my dad and granddad were hauling vegetables to market in Liverpool. The family immigrated to Canada in the late 60s and settled near Alliston, Ontario. I bought my first truck in 1982 and Mercer Trucking was born. Today, Mercer Trucking has over 50 trucks in terminals in Toronto and Los Angeles. Our storage facilities at both terminals can handle any size of distribution needs throughout North America. We service the continental U.S., including Hawaii and Alaska. We run over 120,000 miles per month and some of the best equipment on the road today. We specialize in less than truckload shipments, show freight, we do rush team service deliveries, and haul your refrigerated or heated product. Our regular team service from Canada to California is second to none, and our staff and drivers are among the best in the business. I'm proud of our people and what they can achieve. Trucking is in my blood, it's my livelihood, and it's what I do best.
Welcome back to LSRTV as we kick off tonight's post-race show and get ready to head down trackside to break it all down. But before we do that, Evan Pasoko, you're still upstairs in the broadcast booth. How about that for a finish?
Well, we kind of got a taste, and we knew that something was going to be coming up there when we saw with 40 laps to go that they were going at each other for 20th spot. And then the caution, it always plays into effect. Most of the time, we see the caution. If we get a race-ending caution, it happens with maybe 2 laps to go. You know your fate. If we don't get a caution, we know you're going through. And if we get one that leaves us with a restart, it's plenty of time. So for the 9 of DeBarro, he was holding his breath. He knew that there was trouble coming up behind him. Whether he would have won it if we went green, we don't know. And we'll hear from those drivers to hear what was going on and what they think was going to be shaping up from behind the wheel. But all I'll tell you is that that 9 machine, by no means is he complaining that the yellow flag flew.
Not at all. And as we head down trackside, I'm going to throw it trackside. Brian Macklin, you've caught up with tonight's third-place podium finisher. Again, it's not a win, but for Dwayne Vincent, it probably feels like it after the chaos of this night.
Yeah, I have caught up with your third-place finisher, driver of the number 13 Ford. Here we have Dwayne Vincent here. Dwayne, at the end of the race here, we saw 2 tires, we saw 4 tires. We even saw one guy that tried to stay out. What were your thoughts going through that last restart, knowing that you're still, trying to lock yourself into the next round of the chase, but also knowing that you have a lot of different strategies going on around you? What was your thoughts going through that, and how did you intend on trying to get through the last restart?
Yeah, man, when I saw that, I was like, oh, God, here we go. It's going to be chaos, Just do what you got to do. Might have made a few people upset going 3 wide or whatever, but you just do what you got to do and hope that it works out. It got a little crazy with cars slowing up or getting together or whatever. You just got to stay in it, man, and hope for the best.
Yeah, and of course, the big discussion about this contender round is the fact that in 2 weeks, you guys are going to head to the Talladega Superspeedway. And of course, being one of those 12 drivers that's moved on to this round of the chase, none of you want to have to go into that race worrying about points. You, of course, want to go in to either tonight or next week at Kansas and get a victory. That way, when you go to Talladega, and you don't have to worry about those points. What are you going to do next week? Are you going to go out there and go for broke trying to win the race, or are you going to do points and hope that you can get through next week at Kansas and Talladega cleanly?
You have to go for the win. you got to do what you can for the win, because Talladega's such a crapshoot, man, that it would sure be nice to go in there with a win and just go in there and have some fun.
And we certainly look forward to the action that we expect to see next week at the Kansas Motor Speedway. Real quick before I do let you go, I just want to give you a chance to do some sponsor plugs and shout outs to any of your friends and family back at home.
Yeah, I want to thank Adam Benefield, Ryan Vaughn with Radius Motorsports, Mom and Dad at home. I really appreciate them watching. All you guys at LSRTV and everybody at RSR, we appreciate it.
All right, that is your third place finisher, driver of the number 13 Ford Fusion. That's Dwayne Vincent. We are now moving a little bit further down on pit road, where Justin Rosenau has caught up with a hard-charging Thomas George. Justin Rosenau?
Alongside the runner-up for tonight, Thomas George. Disappointing with the caution flag coming out. You had the speed. You were going to get there. Just how frustrating is that to have a awesome run once again stopped by a caution flag?
It's incredibly frustrating, you know. Somebody brought out a caution with 14 to go, and we had fresher tires, and we were catching them. I don't know if the tires would have held out to get the leader there, but I felt pretty good. And then, you know, we were right there, literally on his bumper. I was flooring that thing and doing everything I could to get to him, and I was getting there. And that was only because I knew we had such little amount of time. Tires didn't mean a damn thing at that point, saving. And you know, and just once again, certain driver, I'm not going to name names, but, you know, he's done this crap all year and caused problems for everybody, and then gets in the way or moving roadblock and brings out another caution, takes out my teammate, you know, racing deal, whatever it might be there, but, you know, just tired of racing and then not getting to finish on the green because somebody just can't use their head. It's ridiculous.
I want to make light of the fact of your team's call. Steel Horse Racing pitted 4 of its best cars, including yourself, with around 35 to 40 to go for 4 fresh tires, and you guys were on the charge through the field. Whose call was that necessarily, and will we see something like that again at the next round?
That was kind of a mutual call. We figured, you know, Jeff was going to be on the outside, and the outside is terrible on restarts here, so there's about 5 laps difference on tires, and we figure if it goes green, which it almost did, we could, you know, go through the field. And Greg took 2, and he was doing good, and I was doing good. John was moving up through the field, and Rev was doing. I mean, that's what we were doing all race, you know, just aiming for the long run. I mean, I don't think any of us could have caught Anthony on even ground because he was fast all race, and I couldn't figure out. None of us really could, and what we were doing wrong. It just got extremely tight after 20 or so laps, and it was a call that we did, and it almost paid off. And then got to 4th, or I got to 5th, or whatever it was. Greg stayed out, and not the call he would have made there, and we charged the field and almost got the win. And just, it sucks. It sucks, but it's good. It's a good finish. You want to get the win, so you don't have to worry about Talladega, and Kansas is going to be its own little treat since the high line's the preferred line, and we're going to see what it's going to produce. Some people might take 2 tires there to get a win. It's going to be a little bit different than it is tonight.
A great run by yourself, Thomas. Great run for your team in Steel Horse Racing, parking several cars up into the top 10 once again. And Thomas, looking forward to Kansas next week. You know, you said it yourself. It's going to be a little bit different of a race. Steel Horse been fast there all year long. Can you guys produce another victory on another 1.5-mile oval?
You'll probably get another victory on a 1.5-mile oval. We'll stop having cautions every 5 laps. But, you know, we've been good at 1.5-mile tracks all year, and Kansas is no different. It's just a little different line we got to run, and it's going to be, I think it's going to be in the sun too, so it's going to be a little bit more slick, and you're going to see who can handle those tires a little bit better than others. And we'll try to get a win if we can, and if not, we're going to go down swinging if we have to.
Congratulations on 2nd place. Thomas, who makes it happen for you there on the Snap-on Chevrolet?
Just everybody back at the shop, everybody on RSR, broadcasting on YouTube for you guys, and I guess Logitech G27 steering wheel. Might as well throw that in there while I'm at it. But overall, good run for everybody, and thanks everybody back home.
That's the driver who finished second. Thomas George, a little bit disappointed, but nonetheless looking forward to Kansas where he can possibly take a victory. And now on down to Gatorade Victory Lane. Jacob Seelman, you caught up with our winner, Anthony DeBarro. I'm sure he's got to be excited after taking away that win.
It was thrilling in the fashion that he did it, and he's climbed out of the car. Second win of the season, second of your career, Anthony, and this one finally won on an intermediate track. You've had so much speed at these 1.5 miles this year. Haven't been able to close the deal. On 4 tires, there was nobody that could touch you over the long haul all night. But how nervous were you knowing Thomas was closing there with about 4 laps to go on 4 fresh ones and having to drive out the rear view mirror, but at the same time keep looking ahead knowing the prize was close?
I was sweating bullets for sure. It started getting really tight on me there. I knew it was only going to last for a little bit, but it was tough. I'm glad I didn't make any mistakes, and we finally put one solid race together. I've been having speed, been up there leading laps, and just haven't been able to put that solid race together, and we finally did it tonight.
Why the 2-tire call on the last pit stop? And, were you guys nervous, or were the guys on the pit box nervous when only 2 or 3 of you actually did it and you had 4 fresh tires from about 5th on back?
Well, I thought more, honestly, we're going to take 2 because it really wasn't bad for the first couple laps. And when I saw that, I kind of figured, I was like, well, we can't nothing we can do now, just go forward. And luckily I was able to get in front of David. Then he got loose, I saw in my mirror, and then I just started just focusing, hitting my laps, as many qualifying laps as I could do, and luckily it was good enough.
I think it was more than good enough. Lead the most laps, get the win. Now you're safe. You're headed for the Eliminator 8. How much of a sigh of relief is that, knowing that you can sleep for the next 2 weeks and don't have to sweat Talladega?
I mean, that's huge, and I've been wanting to get that win. I know Daytona was a win. I don't want to take anything away from that, but I just wanted that regular that win, and there was no doubt about it. And this there was no doubt about my performance tonight, and going into Talladega, I'll be able to definitely help my teammates out and make sure we get all 3 cars to the Eliminator 8.
All right, my friend, I know you can't do it by yourself. Sponsors, thank yous back home. Who makes it happen for the 9 team?
Speed 77 Radio, LSRTV, Race Chaser Online, Performance Motorsports Network, and my teammates at Boomtown Sim, Corbin, Mitch, Jared, and Chris, and especially Mitch, because my long run speed came from him, and I hate that he had that penalty on pit road, because me and him would have definitely battled out for that win.
He rallied all the way back to a top 5 finish, but you, my friend, get the prize tonight, 2nd career win, and I know the celebration's going to go on for a while. Congratulations.
Thanks so much.
Anthony DeBarro, a winner here in Charlotte, and I'll throw it back upstairs. Evan, Brian, let's take the viewers through the full field rundown here tonight.
Well, we talked to the top finishers. Anthony DeBarro, with that win, will sit atop the chase standings, except with a point differential next to his name, it's going to say win. He's good for the next 3 weeks. Thomas J. George comes home 2nd tonight. Dwayne Vincent in 3rd. Those are your podium finishers. David Comstock 1 spot behind in 4th. Mitch Rollo would round out our top 5. How about Jeff Ward comes home in a 6th spot. Christopher Hurlow 7th. 8th for Scott Simley. A quiet 9th for Nelson Rivera. And rounding out our top 10, our pole sitter, Dan Murray.
Yeah, Chad Cole is going to finish in the 11th position. Joseph LaPlaca is going to finish 12th. Rich Jett's going to finish 13th. Jake Higgins is going to finish 14th. Greg Evans, after staying out on that last caution, elected to do no tires. He's going to fall all the way back to a 15th place finish, not the finish he was looking for. Doug Roth is going to get 16th. Sean Bounty is going to get 17th. Another chase contender, Eric Brundy's your defending series champion. He's already in a very deep hole here in the early stages. He's going to finish 18th. He's got a lot of work to do the next 2 weeks. Paul Fugate's going to finish 19th, and rounding out the top 20 is Steve Gottschalk.
Continuing on to the field 21st spot, Jonathan Cadell, the last driver to finish on the lead lap tonight. Everybody from here on out, 4 laps down or more, and for the most part, out of the race. 22nd was E.J. O'Rourke. You got Scott Stenzel in 23rd, a 24th for Sean Casto. Nick Silver was running strong, got in an incident a little bit later on, comes home 25th. 26th tonight, Ryan Vaughn, also 5 laps in a negative. Rhett McBride ends up on the hook, 7 laps down. Adam Benefield behind in 28th, 29th position to Matt Lacrosse, and Brendan Mercer rounds out your top 30.
31st is Tom Drilling. 32nd is Brian Harvey. 33rd is Joey Gattina. Ben Burnett's going to come home 34th. Douglas Wyatt is 35th. Eric Arnold is 36th. And driver of the Meatball Machine, Jose Gonzalez, is going to round out your 37-car field, finishing in the 37th position. And Jacob, it was an incredible race, a lot of action, a lot of strategy, and a lot of intensity here tonight. We expect more of the same next week at Kansas, do we not?
Oh, we absolutely do, because the pressure only ratchets for the 12 remaining chase drivers, or 11 remaining chase drivers that have not yet clinched their spot in the eliminator round, and we know 4 of those 11 will be eliminated. Anthony DeBarro is safe tonight. Again, he is a winner here at Charlotte and moves on in the chase for the Full Throttle Cup. Thomas George, Dwayne Vincent, David Comstock, Mitch Rollo, Jeff Ward, Christopher Hurlow. The top 7 tonight, all chase drivers. Dan Murray rallied to a top 10 finishing position after starting from the pole, but the other 4 chasers that we're keeping our eyes on, Evan, were outside the top 10. Rich Jett, Greg Evans, Eric Brundy's the defending champ, Jonathan Cadell, 21st. They're in jeopardy right now, headed to Kansas in a week's time.
Yeah, those are the drivers that as of tonight are going to end up on the outside. So again, we talked about everybody was squared even away at 3,000 points. Now we get our first look at the intervals going into race number 2 in the round of 12. Dan Murray, your last guy in, as he scored 8th outside of tonight, got 35 points on the evening. 3 points behind him, you have Rich Jett in 9th. 5 more points back is Greg Evans in 10th. 9 points behind is Eric Brundy's in 11th. And 12 points back, Jonathan Cadell in 12th. Those are the 4 drivers right now that have all the pressure on them.
And again, the pressure continues to rise. It'll reach a boiling point again 1 week from tonight at the Kansas Speedway when we take the green flag for the Kansas Lottery 200. Until then, for LSRTV, for our executive producer Laura Lawson and my broadcast partners, Evan Pasoko, Brian Macklin, Justin Rosenau down on pit road, I'm Jacob Seelman congratulating Anthony DeBarro on a win tonight in the Queen City. He's a winner at Charlotte. We'll see you in Kansas. Good night.